The wrestling world just witnessed something that nobody saw coming, and honestly it makes perfect sense when you think about who has been pulling the strings all along, because Paul Heyman has always been the master manipulator, and now we know he is the one responsible for tearing apart the alliance between Bronson Reed and Braun Breaker on Monday Night Raw. If you want to stay updated on all the shocking developments in the wrestling world, then make sure you hit that subscribe button right now, because things are about to get wild. What looked like a simple disagreement between two powerhouses has turned into something much bigger, and the fingerprints of the Wiseman are all over this entire situation, because when you dig deeper into what happened you start to see the pattern and the calculation behind every move that was made. Let me take you back to where this all started, because Bronson Reed and Braun Breaker were an unstoppable force when they joined together, and nobody could stand in their way as they demolished everyone who stepped up to challenge them. These two athletes brought different styles to the ring, but they complemented each other perfectly, with Reed bringing his aerial assault despite his massive size, and Breaker delivering that raw power and intensity that runs in his bloodline. The WWE Universe watched as they climbed the ranks and took out veteran teams and upcoming stars alike without breaking a sweat, because when you put two specimens like that together, the results are going to be devastating for anyone in their path. Everything seemed to be going according to plan for this duo, and they looked like they were headed straight to championship gold until cracks started appearing in their partnership, and it happened so gradually that most people did not even notice at first. There were small moments during matches where one would take the spotlight while the other stood on the apron looking frustrated, and there were times when their communication broke down in the ring, leading to near losses that should have been easy victories. The tension was building week after week, and you could feel it every time they had a segment together, because the body language was changing and the trust was eroding right before our eyes. Then came that fateful episode of Monday Night Raw where everything fell apart in spectacular fashion, and the split happened in a way that shocked everyone watching, because nobody expected it to go down like that. Bronson Reed and Braun Breaker were supposed to team up against another tag team, but things went wrong from the opening bell, and their coordination was completely off as they kept getting in each other's way. Reed went for his signature splash, but Breaker was in the position and nearly got crushed, which led to a heated exchange between them right there in the middle of the ring while their opponents looked on in confusion. The match deteriorated from there, and they ended up losing because neither one was willing to tag the other in, and they were more focused on arguing than actually winning the contest. After the bell rang, things escalated to a physical confrontation, and Breaker shoved Reed, which led to Reed shoving back even harder, and suddenly they were trading punches in the center of the ring. Security rushed out to separate them, and it took multiple officials to keep these two monsters apart as they tried to get at each other with pure rage in their eyes. The crowd was going absolutely crazy, because this was not part of any storyline that anyone had predicted, and it felt real and raw in a way that professional wrestling does not always capture. Both men had to be escorted to the back through separate exits, and the announcers were selling it as a complete breakdown of what had been a dominant team. Now here is where Paul Heyman enters the picture, and why his involvement makes total sense when you understand his history and his methods. The Wiseman has always operated from the shadows, and he has made a career out of manipulating situations to benefit himself and his clients, even when it is not obvious at first what his endgame might be. Heyman has been managing some of the biggest names in wrestling history, and he knows how to get inside people's heads and turn them against each other when it serves his purpose. His loyalty has always been to whoever benefits him the most at any given time, and he has shown repeatedly that he will throw anyone under the bus if it means advancing his own agenda. Sources close to the situation have now revealed that Heyman had been whispering in the ears of both Reed and Breaker for weeks leading up to their split, and he was planting seeds of doubt about each other in their minds. He would talk to Reed privately and suggest that Breaker was trying to take all the credit for their victories, and that he was positioning himself as the breakout star of the team while Reed did all the heavy lifting. Then he would turn around and tell Breaker that Reed was jealous of his natural charisma and his famous wrestling lineage, and that Reed was secretly trying to hold him back from reaching his full potential as a singles competitor. The manipulation was subtle and calculated, because Heyman knows that the best way to destroy a partnership is not to attack it directly, but to make each person believe that their partner is the problem. He would point out small things during their matches and blow them out of proportion, like when Breaker would celebrate after a win without acknowledging Reed's contribution, or when Reed would get a pinfall victory without letting Breaker get involved in the finish. These tiny moments that normally would not mean anything became major issues, because Heyman kept bringing them up and making them seem significant until both men started believing there was actually something wrong with their partnership. What makes this even more devious is that Heyman was doing all of this while appearing to be friendly and supportive to both men, and neither one realized they were being played against each other. He would offer advice and act like he was looking out for their best interests while simultaneously driving a wedge between them that grew wider with each passing week. This is classic Heyman strategy, because he has done similar things throughout his career when it suited his purposes, and he has destroyed friendships and alliances before when he needed to shake up the power structure in whatever promotion he was working for. The question everyone is asking now is, why would Paul Heyman want to break up Bronson Reed and Braun Breaker when they were such a successful team, and what does he gain from their split? The answer lies in understanding that Heyman always thinks several moves ahead like a chess master, and he saw something in this situation that nobody else could see. Having Reed and Breaker as a tag team was fine, but it limited their individual potential, and it kept both of them in a position where they were not threatening to the main event scene that Heyman and his clients dominate. By splitting them up and turning them against each other, Heyman creates chaos in the midcard and upper midcard divisions, which takes attention away from the top of the card where his real interests lie. Two angry and motivated monsters going after each other means they are not focused on challenging for the major championships or interfering in the business that Heyman is conducting with his primary clients. It is a distraction technique that keeps dangerous players occupied with personal feuds instead of climbing the ladder toward the top titles. Furthermore, Heyman knows that a feud between Reed and Breakker is going to be absolutely brutal, and it will produce the kind of must-see television that WWE craves, which means it will take up significant time on Monday Night Raw. Every minute that the show dedicates to their war is a minute that is not being used to build up potential challengers to the people Heyman actually cares about protecting. He has essentially created a self-contained story that will run for months and keep two legitimate threats busy beating the hell out of each other while his chosen clients can operate without interference. There is also the possibility that Heyman sees long-term value in managing one or both of these men after their feud concludes, and by being the architect of their split he positions himself perfectly to swoop in later as the person who can help them rebuild their careers. Imagine Heyman approaching either Reed or Breakker after months of them destroying each other and offering his services to take them to the next level as singles competitors. They would be vulnerable and looking for guidance, and who better to provide that than the man who knows exactly what buttons to push because he has been studying them this entire time. The signs were there all along if you knew what to look for, because Heyman was seen having private conversations backstage with both men at various points over the past few months. At the time nobody thought much of it because Heyman talks to lots of people backstage and he is always networking and keeping his finger on the pulse of what is happening throughout the roster. But now those conversations take on new meaning when you realize he was actively working to undermine the trust between Reed and Breakker while appearing to be nothing more than a veteran offering friendly advice to younger talent. There were also reports from backstage personnel that Heyman was asking questions about both men and their personalities and their ambitions in ways that seemed innocent at the time but were clearly intelligence-gathering missions. He wanted to know what motivated each of them and what their insecurities were so he could exploit those weaknesses when the time was right. This is exactly how Heyman has operated throughout his entire career, by collecting information and using it strategically when it benefits him most. The wrestling community is now divided on whether Heyman's actions are brilliant strategy or unethical manipulation, but the truth is that in the world of professional wrestling these kinds of moves are what separate the good managers from the legendary ones. Heyman has never been afraid to get his hands dirty, and he has never pretended to be anything other than what he is, which is a man who will do whatever it takes to stay relevant and powerful in an industry that constantly evolves and threatens to leave people behind. For Bronson Reed and Braun Breakker, the damage is done and there is no going back from what has happened between them, because the betrayal they feel is real even if it was manufactured by outside forces. Both men believe the other one was disloyal and selfish, and that conviction is going to fuel a rivalry that could potentially be one of the most intense of the year. They are going to tear into each other with everything they have, and the matches between them are going to be absolute wars because there is genuine animosity now regardless of how it was created. The fallout from this revelation about Heyman's involvement is still unfolding, and there will certainly be consequences for the Wisemen if Reed and Breakker ever figure out that they were manipulated. Two angry super heavyweights with nothing to lose and a score to settle with Paul Heyman would be a terrifying prospect for anyone, including someone as cunning and resourceful as he is. But for now Heyman is sitting back and watching his plan unfold exactly as he designed it, while everyone else is focused on the drama between Reed and Breakker. What happens next is anyone's guess, because professional wrestling is unpredictable and storylines can change direction at any moment based on crowd reaction and backstage decisions. Will Reed and Breakker eventually discover they were played and team up again to go after Heyman, or will their hatred for each other be too strong to overcome even when faced with the truth about who really caused their split? Will Heyman face any repercussions for his manipulation, or will he continue to operate with impunity because he is too valuable and too smart to be taken down? The WWE Universe is watching closely to see how this situation develops, because it has all the elements of a classic wrestling story with betrayal and manipulation and the promise of explosive confrontations to come. Paul Heyman has once again proven why he is called the Wiseman and why he has survived and thrived in this business for decades while others have come and gone. His ability to create chaos and control narratives and position himself advantageously is unmatched, and this latest move with Reed and Breakker is just another example of his genius at work. As fans, we should appreciate the complexity of what we are witnessing, because this kind of layered storytelling is what makes professional wrestling so compelling when it is done right. The physical action in the ring is important, but the psychology and the manipulation and the mind games behind the scenes are what create truly unforgettable moments and rivalries that people remember for years. Paul Heyman understands this better than almost anyone, and he continues to demonstrate why he is one of the most important figures in wrestling history. Make sure you subscribe to this channel so you never miss an update on this developing story and all the other shocking moments happening in the wrestling world, because things are moving fast and you do not want to be left behind when the next big revelation drops.